Welcome to Nickel City Chronicles. I'm with my partner, Robby Miles Jones, and today our guest has just came home and is a new productive member of society, Jason Babcock. Good to see you, man.
Welcome
You look
home.
good.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Give us a little rundown on where you've been at, what happened, a little backstory if you got one, and run us down where you're going and all that.
Okay, so thanks for having me. First of all, I appreciate it. It's really good to have these type of resources. This is one of the major components of success when you come home is having resources, having people that are in your circle of support and that are willing to work with you, get back on your feet. So without forums like this and without family and friends, I'd be struggling a lot more than I'm struggling right now. So everything is good. Everything is going great. A little background about myself is how did I get into the situation that I got into? Because it wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't, oops, I got caught with this, or, it was a friend and he blamed me for it. This was a lifestyle that I was embedded in for several years. I was part of organizations and, so where it began. So as a child, I was an only child, grew up in a really good family. My mother had me when she was 16 years old, a few months after her 16th birthday. And my father was from Sicily, and he came over. They didn't really, he didn't know how to articulate himself well, so they put him in a developmentally disabled class. So kind of growing up, my father had kind of low self-esteem, and he didn't have an emotional connect with a lot of people. He just worked in like factories and forklift driver. And my mother was just young. So between both my parents, they had the best of intentions, but they didn't really know how to deal with a child that was, I was bright when I was in kindergarten. I got moved up to second grade. And I used to have a lot of, I would give a lot of rebuttals to the teachers. Like they would say, hold your horses, something like that. And I would say, I don't have any horses to hold. So,
Class down a little bit.
Yes. So as a child, children only think in terms of concrete. They don't really understand the concept of being abstract. So it was really the teacher's lack of understanding. I don't know how to think of the abstract. So a lot of times it was interpreted that I was trying to be slick or I was trying to be too smart, but it was innocent. I was a child. So in second grade, I got kicked out of school for somebody had brought a doll to school, and I asked him to see it, and he told me I couldn't see it. So I had a pencil, and when I was walking by his desk, I poked his doll, and he went and told the teacher that I poked him, and the teacher asked to see my pencil, and my pencil tip was broken from the doll. So I didn't really poke him, but at that point, I was already had a reputation for kind of being a class clown. So I was expelled for that. That, in addition to being a class clown, whoa, wow, this kid might have a propensity to violence. So I was expelled. Part of being expelled is in the cafeteria, the principal told the entire cafeteria, you guys all need to calm down. There was a couple hundred kids in the cafeteria. He said, we already have one bad kid getting kicked out today. Don't make it two. So at that point, I just got really flush, hot.
So you heard the bad kid, and right away that kind of messed you up a little bit. Bad kid.
And I remember the guy across from me, he was in like 6th or 7th grade. He was chewing, and it just seemed like his mouth was going in slow motion. The whole world it was like everything just slowed down, and I felt hot, and I'm like, I didn't know how to articulate myself. So even when my parents asked me what happened, I was just like, I don't know, I'm 7 years old. Like, so I got kicked out of that school. They sent me to a pretty bad school. And I got moved up to 5th grade when I was in 3rd grade, and had an issue in 5th grade. A kid said I threw a stapler at him, and as bizarre as it sounds, I'm 40 years old. I have no reason to make this up at this point, but I really didn't. I fake threw it at him, and somebody said that, I guess it was his cousin, said they saw me throw it, but I really didn't. So they kicked me out of that, and I ended up in alternative school. Went to alternative school, started bringing pepper spray to school, and I'll make this as fast as possible. And I remember a kid said, hey, can I see your pepper spray? I said, sure, just don't spray it in class. So he sprayed it in class. Everybody in class started throwing up, vomiting. So now I get kicked out of alternative. Now I kind of have an MO of being a screw up. So around the same age, so I stopped really believing in the system and the educational system. And a good friend of mine that I grew up with, the only thing that seemed stable at that point in life was his father was he was kind of a leader in the Muslim community so I ended up taking my declaration of faith to Islam when I was about 12 years old.
Wow, that's a young age to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted some form of structure in my life
Yeah,
and
of
the
course.
educational system.
So that
Now, if you don't
sounds
mind
like
me,
it sounds like you were hurting young. Like you were looking for a power greater than yourself
yeah.
at a very young age, man. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, like at this time prior to you accepting Islam, were you already embedded in any other faith, or
No, not at all. But around that time, I grew up on the Buffalo's West Side. And for those that know about Buffalo, it's usually neck to neck with Detroit as being the poorest city in America and one of the most violent. So it was a rough upbringing. And the neighborhood started to, like, when I was a real young kid, like up till about 8 years old, it was mostly like an old Sicilian, Italian neighborhood. And then it started changing up. The crack epidemic hit, and it just really, a lot of people started moving out. A lot of people started renting. So homeowners. So at a young age,
did you have any siblings growing up?
I had no siblings. It was just me. Yeah, it was just me. So
Here you are with this high level IQ, and the only social connections you have are in school.
and not even that, because school wasn't, like I said, I became marginalized and disenfranchised from school at a very young age, and it kind of made me just give up on the system in general.
okay, so you met this person. He brings you to Islam.
Yes.
You follow that for a while. Then what happens?
Then I become very radicalized. The leader of the Muslim community was W.D. Muhammad, which is the son of Elijah Muhammad, who is the head of the Nation of Islam during the time of Malcolm X.
Wow. Yeah, everyone knows that name.
Right. So I started traveling around.
Was his son that was you were around one?
Yes.
Wow.
So I started traveling in Muslim communities when I was 13, 14, where we would travel the country. I pretty much gave up on school. And one of the people I remember meeting was Jamil Al-Amin. So Jamil Al-Amin was the leader of the Muslim community in Atlanta. His name used to be H. Rap Brown. He was the leader of the Black Panthers. So it was kind of a radical form of Islam. And it pushed me even further into the streets, because I stopped thinking that there was any chance of opportunity of success in the American dream. That just didn't exist to me.
Right.
So I did that for a while, and then through my studies of Islam, I went to a Islamic school called a madrasa, where I learned a lot of the Quran, and it started pushing me. One of the chapters in the Quran, the second chapter, pushed me into learning about the children of Israel. So I started studying the Bible, and I got a Hebrew Greek concordance. I was always somewhat of a bookworm and a nerd.
Same.
So so I started reading that, and it really just pushed me further into America, and a lot of the religions are just really wicked, and I don't want to be a part of this system at all. So it pushed me really.
You're talking about the Heifer?
Yes.
Yeah, the Heifer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read the Quran as well, so I know what you're talking about. It kind of it's basically the Heifer. What it's saying is you got this monotheistic ideology that comes from Judeo-Christianity, but it's not. But it's flawed. Here we are. This is the new word. This is the word of God. This is what has been revealed to Muhammad.
Right.
And there you go. But it runs down just like a biblical narrative would do. It's sons of Jacob, Moses, Abraham, Esau, Jesus, all that.
Right.
So just for people, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, it was basically what led me away from Islam was I started studying about genealogy and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and not to get too into it, but Abraham had two sons. He had Ishmael first, and then Isaac. Out of Ishmael became a lot of the Arabic tribes, and out of Isaac became
Ishmael. Well, the history shows that the sons of Ishmael were the Arabian Peninsula area.
Right. Yep.
So who now are Muslim, and the sons of Isaac became the Jacob, the Jews, some of the Syrian, the early Christians, Syrians, what I'm saying, the Turks or whatever,
Sure. Yeah, and what kind of led me in that way is because I talked to a guy, and he was just like, "Oh, what nationality are you?" I was going to the movies, with a friend, and he said, "Look at this white boy with a kufi, for my hair." So I said, "Oh, hold on." So I kind of checked him at the movie theater, and he said, "Well, I didn't mean to disrespect. What nationality are you?" So I told him, like, I'm mixed with a ton of things, and one of the things is Native American. So he said, "Oh, you have an inheritance. You're from one of the lost tribes of Israel." And so I started studying, and I said, "Oh, okay, there's an inheritance to me. So it kind of caught me. He threw his bait out there, and it caught me."
A lot of people don't realize that there was 12 tribes. Obviously, a lot of people don't realize that only Judah and Benjamin are who are in Israel today. So there's 10 tribes scattered all over the planet.
Right.
All over the
You know what I'm
planet.
saying?
Right.
But
Yeah, it gets.
but no, I'm cool. I'm glad. I like getting off on tangents like that. But I want to get back to your story a little bit. So
Okay, so basically, yeah, that kind of pushed me into the streets. I didn't really have a lot of role models that were going off to Ivy League or any league colleges. The people that were successful to me were the people that were able to achieve financial success without the structure of the American system. They were people that were in the streets, and those were the people that were powerful in the neighborhood. The gangsters, the con artists. Those are the people that were respected, and that's all I saw. And so it kind of led me in the direction of, okay, well then this is what I have to do, because no matter what I do as far as the educational system, I'm not going to succeed. I got kicked out of school 3 times for something that I didn't do. So that's definitely not going to work. That's not an option. So also, when I was young, I started seeing the guys that were big in the neighborhood, successfully, and that had a lot of clout and a lot of stature. They just disappeared. Now either they went to prison or they were killed. So subconsciously, it started wiring my brain to think, what is jail? So the seed was planted of what is jail? So that kept going through my mind over and over. What is jail? So I was already headed into the direction of what is jail. And I came to figure out what was jail. And it wasn't once or twice. It was a few times that I was incarcerated, mostly for drug sales. And
So essentially, if I may cut in, like for the parents that are watching this,
yes.
for the people who have never seen or been around people who are part of the street culture, like I'm listening to your story, and a lot of it so far mirrors my own. So you're stuck at a young age. Before you even hit your teenage years, you're essentially misunderstood in the schooling system. You don't have a strong support system or familial system at home. You don't have a strong social circle or friends to speak of at that time. So you're essentially just this very bright outcast with next to no hope in your eyes at a young age, based on what you've seen around you, the lack of love, support, and communication thereof.
Yes, like I said, I had my parents, I had some family that loved me, but outside of that, I mean, the streets kind of overpowered any conceptual, anything like that with as far as love. It was like just be either a predator or be prey. That's kind of how it was. Like, it wasn't really, love was just, I understood my parents loved me and that was about it. But just as far as survival came before any thoughts of love or belonging or anything like that. It was, you have to survive out here, and there's only one way to survive. So
catapult forward, jail.
So I end up in shot camp, and which is it's like a military boot camp. At a young age, I was about 22 years old, and I come out.
Alternative to jail, correct? Shot camp.
I'm sorry.
Shot camp is an alternative to jail, a lesser.
Yeah, a lesser sentence, and you just go through like a real rigorous, extreme physical training and constantly being yelled at. It's just like you're in boot camp in the military, but
yeah,
like 6 or 7 months.
I went through it too, so I know exactly what it is. I did the Willard thing though, the shorter one, the 97 days, where it's literally is the exact same program for military boot camp, like the military system that you go through to get into the military. Exactly the same. It's even ran by it's even ran by Marines and everything.
Right. They're called drill instructors. They're not called corrections officers.
Yeah, they're not COs, they're DIs.
Yeah.
The only difference is they don't treat you like you're about to be in our military.
No.
They treat you like you are the fucking scum of this planet.
Right.
Get the fuck on the ground and do those fucking push-ups right now.
Period.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's by the way, that's closed down since in the last couple of years. It doesn't work. It's screwing people up. People are getting screwed up even worse by it. They're coming out of there thinking I'm fucking useless. I'm just gonna go get high more. So, anyways, that's literally gotten closed down in the last couple of years.
Well, it's a hypocritical program because they base it off of Maslow, who was like a philosopher, psychologist, something like that. But then they also beat you up. So it's supposed to be love, and it's just their counter. It's
Maslow's experiments is break you down and build you back up. The only problem is they weren't building people back up.
No.
They're breaking you down and then getting you out of there for the next one to come.
Right.
But so your last bid, you said you did like 3 years.
The one that I just did, I did 3 years. I did it in the state, and I did a little bit of time in the feds. After the state spewed me out, the feds came to pick me up. And
now I'm intrigued. Do you mind? Like you said, feds, and my antennas perked up. I can't lie.
What made it a federal crime?
So it was the level of the drugs that I was.
Were you going were you moving between states or something like that, or?
No, I wasn't really moving between states. It was just, I guess, it was the level of drugs.
Okay.
It was no longer like dimes and 20s and 50s or 8 balls. I got to the point where I was in the kilo range.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's feds right there.
Yeah, I mean.
So, damn.
So after this podcast, I'm coming to get a break.
So a lot of the topics we have on the show all the time, a lot of the topics we throw around here is the criminalization of and the prison system, how we want, prison reform, decriminalization of drugs, and we talk recovery sometimes. We talk about all these aspects that play in. Something that you mentioned in your talking just now rang a bell to me, and I think Robby can identify as well, is like being outcasted at a young age from society, what that does to people, what it does to their health, mental health, what it does to their psyche.
So yeah, once the foundation is set for somebody to be disenfranchised and to be marginalized by society, and your brain is wired a certain way. That's why the recidivism rate, or the people returning to prison within the first 2 years, is like 70-80%. A lot of people come out because a lot of people, you're wired. If you picture wiring a car, how long it takes to wire a car, just picture the complexity of the human brain and how long it takes so you have to rewire your brain. And in prison, unfortunately, they're not really giving you a lot of programs or a lot of time to do that. You have to really.
In fact, what they do give you is other people who are like-minded like you. Right. And you're around people that are like you who need help, but all you're getting is more ideas, more people to, what I'm saying, to link up with.
I've known people who furthered their criminal career from meeting people in prison.
Exactly. You know what's crazy? This is a fact. You want to know something crazy? There are people who go to prison on a 1 to 3. So that's the lowest. The 1 to 3 is the lowest. I think 2 flat or something like that. Regardless, 2 flat, 1 to 3. It's the smallest amount of state time you can get. Anything before that, you're doing it in the county. You're not going upstate, right? So there's people who go to prison on 1 to 3s. They're going to do 18 months or whatever, or 2 years, and go home. They end up catching new charges in prison.
Very easily.
They get affiliated with gangs. They go and stab somebody in the mess hall. Now they got 10 years.
Yep.
And there's people,
not only that,
people who go in prison on 1 to 3s for nonviolent stuff and never, ever go home, ever.
Well, to me, there's 2 aspects to that I think are absolutely fucking heinous. It's the aspect that you got this dude doing a 1 to 3 and he's sitting next to somebody in chow hall that's serving life, bro.
Yeah, right. That's a good point, too.
So this dude could fuck me. He don't care what's going on. He's done. Yeah. He done lost his appeals. I'm sitting on this fucking 1 to 3.
And he's miserable, so he kind of doesn't want you to go home.
Yeah, they find out you're just on a 1 to 3.
Neil, and I ain't trying to be funny because it's not to demean you or nothing like that. But imagine somebody your size going in there on a 1 to 3, and you sit down at a table and there's 3 motherfuckers serving life, and they're 6 foot, 400 something pounds. They've been in the, you feel me? Like they done been in the yard, working out all it. Like that's a very violent. Because when, like, again, like he said, is the understanding that you have to rewire the brain. So these people are sitting in this prison, violent as hell, mad at the world. They done on appeals. They not getting letters. They not getting visits.
Right.
Well, what you have is trauma added on top of trauma. So most people that are going to prison have some type of mental illness, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar, just a number of mental illnesses. So you're just throwing a bunch of people together, predators, just a bunch of people, and you're telling them, figure it out. So you're adding trauma on top of trauma. You're already traumatized, and then you're being put in an environment which is extremely traumatic.
And then there's the whole aspect of being institutionalized. So you get used to being told when to go to sleep, when to eat, when to go outside, when to do this, when to use the phone, when to have a visit. You get used to that. And then you get out, and all of a sudden you're independent. You have to find a job. You have to find a way to get around. You have to do all this. That's fucks people up, dude. They go right back to prison because they don't know how to handle life because they're institutionalized.
Well, a lot of people come from really poor backgrounds. They're poverty stricken, and then they come into these prisons, which are state of the art. So you're coming from the absolute worst conditions, and then you're being put in these state of the art facilities, and it's the transition is really awkward. And then you're being released, but they don't. I mean, contrary to popular belief, the programs that they offer, the programs that they give you in prison are really not helpful. Like they give you ART, anger resistance training, which is it's being taught by another inmate who's telling you, all right, guys, just play cards or whatever. So this is where the taxpayer money's going. Now, like nationally, there's about 100.
Get into that. You got some numbers that I heard, right?
Okay, yeah. So nationally, there's about $180 billion a year that's spent on incarceration. About 180 billion. Now, they say it's 80 billion, but if you take into account the packages that people are being sent, you take into account the money, the phone calls that are outrageous. They price gouge you, and a lot of the prisons like Core Civic, they're private. So a ramen noodle might cost you 19 cents in the street. Well, in prison, they might be $1.50. They might be $1 in the county. A summer sausage might be $1.50.
Yeah, they create a market out of bodies.
They're exploiting the poor.
Right. That's really exploiting the poor. Then you got the whole system of labor where they say, "Oh, we'll give you 10 cents a day to work. We'll take you outside." And listen, you're an inmate, right? You're stuck in your cell all day. You're stuck on the block all day. You hear go outside. You're like, I'm down. Sign me up. Little do you know, you're literally getting pimped out by modern day slavery.
But that isn't I was gonna say that isn't even getting pimped out. That's a legal monetization of slavery.
Slavery, right?
Well, under the 13th Amendment, I think it was in 1860, they said slavery shall be abolished except in forms of incarceration. So they found out a legal way, which Abraham Lincoln, the guy that abolished slavery, he was a full supporter of the 13th Amendment. So the 13th Amendment legalizes slavery. So it's a modern form of slavery.
To cut you off, that's essentially to understand that it's not that he was against slavery. He understood the only way he could win the war was to abolish slavery.
And it was never really abolished because they made an amendment, the 13th Amendment.
They amended it. They didn't abolish it.
They didn't abolish, they amended. So
right.
The nature of the criminal justice system itself has changed. Like it's no longer primarily concerned with the prevention of crime. It's the management and the control of the dispossessed. So when I mentioned like being marginalized and disenfranchised, these are words where a lot of people might not understand. What does he mean by being marginalized or being disenfranchised? So it's defined as basically it's taking away somebody's right or depriving them of power, rights, and privileges. So part of the Bill of Rights is you have the right to pursue liberty, the pursuit of liberty. So once you get a felony, or even before you get a felony, if you grow up in a poverty-stricken environment, or where school, like for instance, with the numbers, they spend about 180 billion. I'll make it on a smaller level, on a micro level. So in New York State, I'm in Florida now, but I'll use New York. New York spends about $35,000 per year per inmate, and they spend about $9,000 to $12,000 a year per pupil in education. So we spend and this is just on a state level. If we do it on a national level, it's even crazy. The disparity is even larger. So you have, they're spending all this money on incarceration, but they're spending a minimal amount of money of education. Now, there's a direct correlation between lack of education and incarceration, or being involved in a criminal lifestyle. So there's a solution. There is a solution. You know, how can we make the world a better place? Well, we're taxpayers. Our tax money should be utilized into education and not so much for incarceration. So there was a law passed in 1994. It was the Crime Bill Act, and they incarcerated millions of people. You caught with a little bit of drugs, and you do
Joe Biden's crime bill.
Joe Biden's crime bill.
Signed by Bill Clinton.
Signed by Bill Clinton, right? The Democratic Party, which I don't say anything about the left or the right. It is what it is. But yeah, they definitely were the biggest supporters of that crime bill.
Right.
So what?
And I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm glad you're steering it in the direction you are, because we can't have this conversation as two white people without without talking, or at least mentioning, or at least let Robby rock out to the fact that this is going on in certain neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? No, this has been going on in the hood in every city. People are disenfranchised, and they're in and out of prison.
But to understand, and this is why I'm so passionate about my people, because I have an African-American father. I have black brothers and sisters. I have black cousins, black aunts, and black uncles. This was happening. The disenfranchised came for African-Americans far beyond before all this systematic racism really came into play when it comes to the judicial system. Before you talk about the schooling system, you have a culture of people that have been beaten down for centuries, hundreds of years.
Right.
So you talk about disenfranchised. How could I ever feel like I'm good enough for a country that has never seen me to be good enough? I'd look better off knowing, like you said, now, you got a white guy talking about how he seen the dudes in the hood. This piqued his interest. So imagine not coming from an okay or structured background. Imagine not having a set of parents. Imagine not having a qualified education. Imagine even being a single parent at this time. Like, you automatically understand, before I'm 20, I'm already disenfranchised. Yes. I don't see myself good enough, so I'm going to cut as many corners as I can to make sure that I can be good enough for Amherst, for Cheektowaga, because I'm sick of Buffalo.
You have to even the playing field.
Yeah. And the only way you can do that is to understand that I have to go outside of the system.
Yes.
Because there are not programs in place. There's not support in place. There's not politicians that really speak for my people. All of my local leaders are almost silent or gone. All my after school programs, my mom's at work. How can I ever come to a level playing field when it was never level in the first place?
Period. Well, also to add to what you're saying, so part of being disenfranchised and marginalized, so marginalization can negatively affect or impact the individual's physical, psychological, and emotional health. So some of the consequences may include anger or fear, depression, self-blame, sadness, stress, isolation. So you're already dealing with this at a young age, and you don't know how to harness the energy to do, what is socially acceptable. So you're having these feelings of anger, and you're incarcerated long before you're incarcerated. So you
just said it.
Prison was just a physical manifestation of what was going on internal. The internal dilemma that I was dealing with.
Say that one more time.
Physical incarceration is just it's a physical manifestation of an internal imprisonment. So I already had issues that were going on, fear and rage and anxiety and depression. And I just, ever since I was 7 years old and I got kicked out of school and was told that I was a bad kid, it began the process of wiring my brain that, hey, you're not accepted here. You're a bad kid. You're no good. Okay. And I never took time to allow that child to be hugged or healed. I just became bigger. I became an adult, and the little kid was never hugged and said, hey man, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. You know.
Now, if I could cut in like at a time like when that shit was going on with me, and I was like, because we're talking about me at a young age being bounced between foster care and homes at a young age, then going to East Ferry, and when you got all of this shit going on, and you have like, and I'm not disrespecting my parents, dads, you know I love you, mom, you know I love you, God rest your soul, but then you have family members or parents who don't embrace you as a child. I didn't grow up with a familial aspect of love. They might say it. Like I say to my dad, hey, Dad, I love you. Motherfucker, you know I love you. I ain't got to tell you I love you. I went to physically hug my father before, and he punched me in the face.
Wow.
So,
and you know what?
Tough love.
And it's very easy. It's very easy to go straight to parents and blame parents for this type of stuff. But it's bigger than that. There's only so much. There's only so much parents can do in a situation where it's society. It's life. It's like you said, it was just a manifestation of what was inevitable.
To complete what I was saying is like, when you don't have that aspect of love or the ability to feel love growing up as a child, you look for that elsewhere subconscious.
Yeah.
He probably didn't even realize, because I didn't at the time. Me looking back, Michael, I fell in love with the streets.
Well, for me, it wasn't
love.
For me, I said, fuck love. I need power. Okay, love is only going to last for so long. I need power, and I need to instill fear. And the only way to do that is to get money. So, and the people that I grew up with, the people that I were around, we were like considered terrorists in the street, but we were really just the scapegoats. So America, we have the largest prison population in the entire world by far. By far. So
by triples, by quadruples. Like our numbers don't even make sense compared to other places.
And we only have like 350 million people, and we have about 3 million or 1% of the population is incarcerated.
Crazy.
China has billions of people, and they might have like 100, 200,000 people that are incarcerated. But let's use an example of the Netherlands. So the Netherlands is a country that has put no one behind in bars in about five years. In 2013, I think it was, the Netherlands had 19 prisoners in the whole country.
And you know what else? My cousin was living in Sweden. The prison system, which is not the same as Netherlands, but it's right there. It's the same. You know, it's the northern Eastern Europe, and over there, bro, their prison system is set up like a university. You go there, and they right away they throw you in classes, they rehabilitate you, get you job ready by the time you're out of there.
Right.
Where did they do that in prison in the United States? No,
they took away the ability to get a certification and/or education in prison,
which is crazy.
Right. Well, the thing is, the criminal justice system is clearly broken, and the average person who says, well, then just don't be a criminal and you won't go to jail. Well, there's a lot more to it. I mean,
they don't understand this. This is a deep psychological issue, and
right.
people in the last episode we did with Dominique Calhoun, we were talking about equality of opportunity.
Yeah,
something that everybody agrees on, left wing, right wing. We agree that equality of opportunity, which means maybe our outcome might not be the same, but based on what we put in, you get out, which is okay. But here's the thing, though. Right now, there is no equality of opportunity. People in certain areas of the country have more opportunities than people in other areas of the country, and that needs to change.
Before I even touch on that,
real quick though, let me just finish this thought real quick. And the reason why I say that is because when we get everybody involved and everybody feels like they matter and they're a part of the system and they contribute and they're just as important as everyone else, all of a sudden it all comes back tenfold for everybody. You're not just helping somebody out and losing from it. You're gaining back from that too.
See, I don't know if there will ever be equality. Honestly, I don't think there's going to be equality. But but there is a solution. We don't necessarily have to be equal for there to be a solution to the prison industrial complex. And a good solution would be that there's sociological, economic, factors that play into people being incarcerated. So say, for instance, you're out here and you happen to watch this podcast and you don't know anybody that's incarcerated. You grew up in a good environment, in a wealthy, affluent environment, and you are on the top rung of the social ladder with the highest echelon of society. And you're like, I don't really care about these guys who've been disenfranchised. What does that have to do with me?
Or you just gained a business from your dad. You just got handed a business. Here you go, son. Here's your business that you deserve. Like,
so what does that have to do with you? Well, you're being taxed. So where's your tax money going? I just said in New York alone, it's $35,000 a year per inmate. Nationally, it's $180 billion a year to house an inmate. And so this is where you should want to know where your money's going. If you're some wealthy guy from a person from an affluent area, where is my money going? Well, your money's being blown by putting people in prison and not teaching them anything but more criminal behavior.
Yeah, man.
If I can say, like, and a lot of people might hate me for what I'm about to say, but I'm so unapologetically me, it's crazy. Neil will tell you I'm very pro-Black based on, and I don't have an education, by the way. I've never finished high school. You know what I mean? So I grew up watching the plights of the people around me. I watched my father go fight in a war and come home and was denied a pistol permit, was denied the ability to move wherever he wanted, even though he had a good credit score. My issue overall is that systemically, and even to get to a point of equality, we have to realize that African Americans came to the table without a leg to stand on. Equality was never nothing in this country but a word. You're preaching equality to people who sat by and watched a large percentage of people in the United States build wealth over hundreds of years. And then when it was all said and done, they were like, all right, well, you know what? We're going to do away with segregation. We're going to call you equal, give you a chance to vote. We're going to pass this bill and make it illegal to deny you a job, but we're still going to discriminate against you. Like, there was never a time in which African Americans came to the table on a good leg. And we're talking about a country that gave reparations to
Asians.
What's that?
Asian Americans. Oh,
not just Asian Americans. They gave them to Jews who suffered during the Holocaust. I believe they gave them to the Japanese who suffered from our bombings.
That's what I said.
And
That's what I meant, Japanese, yeah.
But there was like 2 or 3 other nations or countries or ethnic background of people that we have as a country given reparations to. Yeah. But when it came to the millions of African Americans who've been disenfranchised for hundreds of years in this country, the conversation got quiet. And when you bring it up to this day, still people are like, well, there's no slaves around. The wealth that was built from slavery is still around in some of these families.
Well, not only that, but people making 16 cents a day. See, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of companies that are invested into prison, such as Walmart, such as Starbucks.
By the way, just to touch up on what you're about to say, when you get put on food stamps, guess who makes the money off those food stamps? Walmart, Target, places that accept food stamps. Corporations make money off food stamps. But go ahead.
That full cycle, bro.
Yeah. So, well, to add on what Robby is saying, there's a good book called The New Jim Crow, written by Michelle Alexander. It's about the mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness. So she goes over everything that you're talking about. But see, it's funny because I'm white and I could identify with someone that is Black because being disenfranchised and marginalized, and it really sucks. It really sucks, and it's like, wow, you know, a lot of my friends joke with me and they say, man, you're Blacker than me, like with your record, and they're Black.
Listen, a lot of hard right-wing conservatives, far-right conservatives, mostly rich Christian conservatives, they don't understand. They think it's all about what you put in is what you get out. They don't understand, like, okay, they were handed a business from their parents. They never had a job in their life. They fucking screwed up all the time. Every time they screwed up, they got pulled right out of the hole they were in by their mommy and daddy. And all of a sudden now in a political situation where we're debating the situation, their answer to the whole thing is, well, you should get in what you put out, right? We're all equal opportunity here. It's like, no, look at yourself. Like, seriously.
it's a very narrow outlook. And if you don't understand somebody that, see, me personally, my political background, I'm more of a libertarian, which not liberal, libertarian, somebody that believes in the rights of the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution. I don't believe in big government. There's some things that I'm conservative on, and there's some things I'm more liberal on. So I'm one of the people in America that aren't really polarized. You won't see me wearing a MAGA hat or a Biden hat. I won't wear either one of them. I mean, they're politicians, but
right, exactly. People got so obsessed over Trump. Like even today, he's gone now, and they're like crying about this man, like he's the Messiah. Dude, he's over with.
They're applauding right now because he's not going to jail or he can run for office. They are applauding. My feed is going nuts, bro.
Yeah, you know what? But I'll say this though. I will say this. When we talk about equality, that word we have to define it correctly, because we can go for equity where we all can just get, let's just do universal basic income. We all can make $10,000 a month. We all accept it. We all get it. No one has to work. No one has to strive for anything. Our country would fall right down the fucking hole. You know what I'm saying? Communism didn't work in the USSR. Doesn't look like it's working too well in China either, except for the people on top. So we got to be careful when we throw the word equality around. We want to make sure that we're talking about equality of opportunity, that everyone has a chance to pitch in and feel a part of, not just forcing everyone to be exactly the same, because we're not. We're all different. We all bring different strengths to the table, and that's what this is about, dude. Is keeping the market open and free, but trying to make sure that everybody can pitch in and get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like common sense if you think about it.
I think there needs to be a lot.
Go ahead.
I think there needs to be a lot more in terms of people being empowered. So you have the left, the liberal, then you have the right, the conservative, and they clash with each other. But the reality is, both parties believe in welfare. The conservative party believes in the welfare of the wealthy, and the poor believe in the welfare of the poor. I don't believe in either. I believe that there should be programs and incentives to empower you. There should not be you should not be a lifelong resident of welfare. You should not be, maybe a year or two, you need help getting on your feet. Okay, but it should not be a generational thing. You should not be dependent on the government.
Right. That was the goal, was predatorily getting people stuck in the system so they can rely on the system, that they need the big government as to be their God. Always vote. I gotta vote Democrat. Gotta make sure I get my fucking check this month. You know what I'm saying? That's like modern day slavery if you think about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think to understand that too at the same time is to know, like, there are programs in place. If you're watching this video right now and you receive food stamps or cash assistance or any type of help from the government, there are programs that we are not being told about. For instance, like, it didn't take until I was essentially, and Neal was there, I just was homeless with all 4 of my children. It took for me to be homeless to understand that the house that you see me living in right now came off of one of these programs. I shouldn't have to be homeless. No,
these programs are very necessary. Safety nets, very necessary. I mean, even Milton Friedman himself said that he was very straight up about it. Like, my idea of good economics that will make America thrive won't be good for everybody. There will be poor people. There will be people homeless, because that's, you know what I'm saying? The hard right-wing economic system is you get in what you put out. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, you get out what you put in, I meant to say. But we got to remember is this. Okay, so when this country, everybody pitched, like, basically what I'm getting at is this. If we get to a place in this country finally where people are actually participating and engaging as one big house, and not the Democrats got to get the House this time. We got to win the seats. We got to win the Senate. We got to win the presidency. If we actually got to a point where we realized that we're all in the same boat, and we actually thought about real solutions and not just winning the political strategy, this country is set up to be the best of all time. You know what I'm saying? We could. It's just we don't see it. We're so divided by all this little bullshit, Trump and Biden. where we don't see that we're all in this together.
Well, division is what creates power. You keep people divided, you continue to reign in power. If people come together, like, for instance, I mean, there's a lot of leaders, but okay, let's just say Malcolm X, when he believed in the division of races, he was one of the top spokespeople. But then when he went to Mecca and he came back and he said, "Hey, I was wrong. I think black people just need to focus on building up our own businesses and empowering ourselves first, and we don't really need the assistance of white people or anything right now. We need to just do this on our own." He was assassinated. He took away. He took the government. Right. So once you upset the social structure and you say, I do believe in the unification, we need to come together as a people because we have more in common than we have. I mean, the only difference between of people is literally a tan. You know, like somebody's a little lighter, but we're like 99% the same as a monkey. So how much closer are we as humans? We're like 100% the same. You know, so it's ridiculous. It's a sickness. People that are racist, people that don't understand. There was a good book written by a guy named Jared Diamond called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And he talks about why are certain people in power and why are certain people not in power. And it just became, the reality of it is certain people just got to certain resources first and they capitalized and monopolized off. And that happens today. Whoever gets to something first, they capitalize off of that. So that's why certain people are in power. They just got to certain resources before other people. Read more into it on your own. But people, we need to really just, I mean, there needs to be more than a two-party system, the Democrats versus the Republicans. A lot of people, see, one thing that I've realized in life is the best way to understand somebody and to win a debate or to win any type of argument over with somebody isn't to show them the merits of your argument. It's to better understand and listen to their argument. So if you're like, let's just say I'm an ultra right conservative Republican, gung ho, and then somebody is like super left wing liberal, and so the best way for me to understand them would be to have read information on conflicting viewpoints. So a lot of times when you are able to understand somebody's argument better than them, they might adopt your mind state and say, wow, you know what? You just kind of enlightened me. And that's the problem is you don't have a lot of people that are enlightened. You have a lot of people that are getting their news from Facebook and from biased news agencies instead of actually studying history and taking time out of your life to meditate on precepts that have been written 200-300 years ago from great authors that have stood the test of time.
Yeah.
You preaching, damn it.
No, yeah, you killed it. And you know, that brings me to my final, I wanted to end this all on the last subject. I'm kind of switching gears a little bit. But like the one thing that I noticed that gets people out of being disenfranchised, it gets people out of the system of going back to prison and constantly relapsing on whatever drug they're addicted to, whatever the problem is, right? The one thing that I noticed, and this is a common denominator through all the 12-step places, through everything basically that works, is the one thing: finding a power greater than yourself, dude.
You know what? And it's funny that you mentioned that because I was when the feds came and picked me up, I got sent to first day out of state. I got tested when I went to a federal detention center, and I got tested and I was positive for COVID-19. So I said, "Oh my God, I just did my entire time. I'm about to come home, and now I'm gonna die in some cell in Livingston County, New York. I don't want to tell my family and worry them. So, oh my God, there's a possibility that I might die with this." So I started studying. I read the dictionary and I read God, and the definition for God, it was like, it was an epiphany. It said the supreme reality. So I said, wow, that's really deep. So what is the supreme reality?
Reality.
It's the reality minus any bias, any environmental bias, any educational, any media
all
bias.
Truth. It's all that is.
You're in total harmony and peace with reality objectively. There's nothing subjective anymore. You just finally become to operate on the vibration of you end up listening to the voice of the cosmic force, and it's the supreme reality, and that's true enlightenment.
Something about, exactly, it's true enlightenment. There's something about, and the Christians call it being born again. this is something. This is a real thing that takes place in somebody's mental, physical, and emotional health. Like there is a point in someone's life where they literally change who they are and become a new person. And I'm not going to get into too specific in one religion or another, but this is something that there's truth to it, and it's worked for me, man. Like it's worked for me. I dove head deep into reading scripture, the Bible, the Quran, all even like other ancient texts as well, and trying to find this common denominator and realizing that eternity is just the concept of infinite is just trying to understand it and then meditating on it and then asking whoever you are, whatever it is that you are out there, I'm here and I'm trying to talk to you and get a tap into you, and then seeing that it actually works.
Right.
I mean, like
transcendentalism.
For me, like, you know, recently I was just, I mean, Mike, I don't know if you, well, you don't know, I don't know if you tuned into the podcast, but I was going through my shit with Nicole, and Nicole took the kids from me, my ex-wife. And you know, Neil, I was just in a fucked up place. Like, I've been in my house not wanting to clean, like, getting drunk all the time, like, coming into January, like, right after Christmas, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at all these gifts. I got over $2,000 worth of gifts just sitting here, and I keep walking past it every day. And every time I walk past their gifts and I still see them wrapped and they're unopened, I get depressed all over me. I start feeling that shit all over again. So one day I'm like, fuck this. I contacted Neil. I'm like, we need to get back to doing a podcast. I had some friends come over that just, you know, like, what's up, man? You got dishes all in the sink. They all on the counter. Like, your house not dirty, but this is not you. You know what I mean? And it started to make me, I had to really look inside myself again. I took all the presents, I put them on each of the kids' beds, closed the doors, and I think one of the first things I asked you was like, yo, what's up with the gym? You had asked me a while back to get into the gym, and I don't think I took you seriously. We kept hitting and missing, and then we started getting back into the gym. And I realized quickly, because now my phone's ringing, these opportunities are coming in, different things were happening because I changed how I was living. I changed my thought process. And one day I just sat there like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you are, but I can feel you in my life right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I really had to sit here, turn all my lights off in my house, and really just try to understand what was going on with me and how I was able to, in my eyes, with the power or help of something else, because I couldn't do it. I was too weak, bro. I wake up every day like I want to change. I need something better. And then I go get an 18-pack lean to a bottle of liquor, and I'm not cleaning my house all over again. But I'm feeling the change. I'm seeing the changes. Neil picking me up. We going to the gym. I'm feeling better about myself physically. I'm feeling better about myself mentally. And I knew right then and there that even though I felt like I was alone, there was something working within me.
Right.
And that's really all I wanted to say. Like the fact that you said that, like,
that's
man,
exactly what I'm getting at, bro. You just touched on exactly what I'm getting at. It's just you can't explain it. It just happens though. It's like you're not in control no more. Something else takes over. Jason, you got anything you want to promote or say before we close out?
Just to kind of add on what Robby just said as far as like drugs and drinking and everything. Like, you know, those are like, you know, just false receptors. A lot of drugs and drinking and all that, they do one of two things. They either enhance your reality or it allows you to escape your reality, but you're still in the fucked up reality. Yeah. So one thing that I've learned is like through diet and exercise is, you know, through exercise, you're getting your dopamine and your norepinephrine levels, your feel good levels. And then through diet, you got your serotonin, which is your gut. So that adds clarity. And so that's what I would just encourage anybody that's coming home or that's dealing with any type of issue, really to try to get yourself into some type of physical activity, exercise, and
mind, body, and soul.
Mind, body, and soul. And I wish everybody the best out there, especially people that have been disenfranchised and marginalized or are coming home. I'm tackling a number of things. I got a lot on my plate, but One of the greatest things I have going for me is I have a really strong support system, and I'm taking steps to reach out and do things such as this podcast. As there's 1,000,001 resources out there. Never feel discouraged or feel like you can't get something done. There's so many people that want to help you in this world. You just have to ask, and you will definitely receive. Believe.
Tell me you're writing a book, bro.
It's in the works.
Nice. All right, we'll keep everyone we'll keep everyone in tune for that, though. So, Robby, you are the closing pitcher. Take it away.
Well, we appreciate you for coming on, and your story is a lot like mine. I definitely look forward to possibly developing a friendship and networking in the future. So, thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
No problem. As always, everybody, if nobody told you today, I love you. We are a people who forget that love will essentially heal this world. It is rare. So if you do find it, if you do feel it, if you're watching this, if you're hearing my voice, and you have somebody sitting next to you that you love, please turn to them and ensure them that you love them. For that is the only way we will heal the world. Peace and love.
All right, y'all.